Welcome to the FP Executive Suite. We're here with Hollie Shaw once again to continue our occasional series on bad marketing ideas. And this week there was a doozy that sort of broke out as a viral protest. It involved Motrin, which is a pain reliever. If people don't know, it's a drug manufacturer. And they work with an ad agency called Taxi, which I think you're quite familiar with. They pulled together an ad that was aimed at moms who wear their babies on sort of like a cloth wrapping.
Wearing your baby seems to be in fashion. I mean, in theory, it's a great idea.
And it suggested that that wearing that was a bit of a fashion statement, and it could end up giving you back pain and pain in various parts of your body, and that you should take a Motrin to deal with this. Now, this went through the process of approval, went onto the Motrin site, and then people started watching it. Moms started watching it. Hollie, did this go down very well?
In a word, no. No. There was a very swift backlash. And it's interesting because I think consumer protests used to take a really long time to gather steam. But in the digital age, it only takes a couple days now, and so it failed on a number of fronts on the part of Taxi and Johnson & Johnson, because they didn't seem to notice that this was happening. And so I guess, you know, in talking to people in the days after this happened, I guess the number one thing was social media. If you have something that's out there virally, you have to continually monitor what's happening online for tracking these brands. And that was something they obviously weren't doing. One blogger wrote about it, and I guess this blogger has a bit of a following. But then now that there's this microblogging service called Twitter that allows people to just put up little posts and comments, this one woman sort of mobilized a bunch of Twitter contributors under Motrin Moms, the tag Motrin Moms. And so that, you know, immediately led to calls for boycotts, and it was sort of over 2 days. And then people started posting their own response videos wearing their babies, and they were just really, really, really angry, thinking that it was condescending. Well,
this ad, when I looked at it, the first thing that jumped out at me is how slick it was. And I think we'll have some clips throughout on the video of that ad. To me, it seemed really well produced, taking you right into the Motrin message. But the voiceover, to say the least, was patronizing, and I think a lot of the moms who responded to it when I watched their YouTube videos, for example, did complain about that. But I think the issue of wearing the baby as a fashion statement really did upset a lot of mothers. Hollie, tell me, how do you go through the process of producing such a great commercial in terms of the production value, but then not test market it? What happened here? Did the people who produced it just not know moms, or what was going on?
Well, you've touched on a bunch of interesting points. I think it's funny because a guy I was talking to who works in the marketing world speculated. His former creative director speculated that this is the work of a couple of young childless people, evidently. But I mean, it doesn't really matter who produced it, because I know there was a similar type of scandal a few months back where a couple of young women who are avid runners produced a series of pro bono ads for the Toronto agency DDB, and it was ads for running bras, and it depicted women who looked like they'd been beaten up. And the tagline was something like, great deals on running bras at this store. And so it implied that they were getting, hit in the face by their own breasts because their running bras weren't enough. So, I mean, so people were incensed. And so it created a similar type of, and DDB apologized, and that was written by two young women. So I don't know that the failure was, I think a lot of times when you're working in a creative bubble, it is just that, it's a bubble. But really, it's the responsibility of the marketers and the people on both sides, not just the advertiser, to go out and test it with the right targets. So moms who use baby carriers primarily, or just moms. I mean, it's not clear to me. Nobody's talking. They're in sort of damage control mode right now. So it's not clear to me who they tested it with, but obviously... I mean, it's funny because I guess I looked at it first in the context of knowing that it had caused outrage, and so that's how you come with that foreknowledge. But to me, I mean, it's funny that you said, oh, you notice how slick it is, because I literally stop at the voice.
These things put a ton of strain on your back, your neck, your shoulders. Did I mention your back?
Oh, okay.
The voice to me is so annoying and so condescending that I actually can't even, I mean, and Taxi does wonderful work. And I think you're right. I think the images do look good, but it's just completely obliterated for me by this sort of
well, the
Valley
art,
Girl going on about.
The art I thought was fantastic. It draws you through it. There's lots of motion happening. And it keeps you right on message with what Motrin is trying to tell the consumer, and that is we're here to relieve your pain, and we understand. But the problem was they really didn't understand what they were talking about in the context of moms wearing their babies.
Well, yeah. I mean, when it comes to marketing pain relievers, and I mean marketing in general, great marketers will come up with a problem that they have to fix.
Right.
So just much in the way, so say pharmaceutical advertisers will say, hey, there's this really, really rare syndrome called restless leg syndrome, and we're going to make an ad about it, and we're going to create a drug and then make an ad about that drug to try to let people know that, hey, do your legs twitch at night? This is a serious problem, and we have the drug to fix it, and you can buy it. Hey, isn't that great? And it's the same with pain relievers. There's so many of them on the market. There used to just be, aspirin, Tylenol, solve your pain, and then it became, solve your back pain, and they developed all of these channels of specificity with these drugs to market because there were so many different varieties. I mean, apparently there are over 100 varieties of Tylenol on the market right now.
Yes.
So, and it's the same for Motrin. So I'm sure it was very smart strategically for them to think, oh, not just back pain, but Motrin, the drops is a big drug for kids. So they would think, well, let's get the mums too. I mean, you can see almost strategically how this could have developed. But, so back pain from a baby carrier. We've invented a new problem. Aren't we smart marketers? And really they are. But I think just the execution was wrong. I think there could have been a good way for them to say exactly what they're saying.
Oh, I think so too.
If you wear those carriers improperly, they totally hurt. I mean, I wore one. I remember having a horrible neck pain, but that's not the point. I mean, if they could have said it, I think it was just the tone of it that was actually the delivery of the message that was off, not necessarily even the message itself. So
what is the lesson here for people in brand building marketing? Is it to ensure that you test market your advertisement first, or do you have to start well before then and make sure that the ad agency is outside the bubble when they're creating their advertisement? Well,
I think test marketing is really obviously crucial with the right segment of people. I mean, it could be that because it's just developing media, I think there's a sense that, viral media is cheap and it's really sort of edgy and you can get away with a lot more. Well, I don't know if that's necessarily the truth. I mean, it's becoming much more mainstream, and it's obviously very easy to offend people in a big way, even if it is online with your brand. And I think the bigger your brand is, the more of a hit you can take.
Oh, for sure. It will be interesting to see when we Google Motrin in the days to come what pops up. If it's going to be the protest, or if it's going to be one of their other advertisements or some other news story. But I have a feeling that this is going to hang around on Google for a long time. Hollie Shaw, thank you very much for joining us today.